welcome back to Let's Create with Alex Blake. I'm your host, Alex Blake, and today we have a guest on the pod.
Yeah.
This is my friend Shawna.
Hello.
Hi, Shawna.
Hi.
It feels weird to record our conversation because we're just like regular friends
Right.
in regular life, and obviously she's here in person with me. So
Yes.
You live in Charleston.
I do.
Yes.
For a year.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Just hit a year.
That's
Yeah,
weird.
I know. It's
That's
kind of
exciting,
weird. But...
though. I met Shawna literally before she ever even moved
Yes.
to Charleston. She like posted
Yeah.
on this like Charleston Facebook group.
Yeah.
Guys, people in Charleston are like weirdly into Facebook.
I feel like that's how you meet people.
Yeah. But it's
You
weird
don't.
because I feel like in the rest of the world, Facebook is dead. And when I
Right.
moved to Charleston, everyone's like, you need to join the Facebook group. I was
Right.
like, okay. But anyway, that's how me and Shawna met. And then we've been like besties ever since.
Right.
But Shawna's actually not a photographer.
Nope.
So this is, I think, my first time other than Zach having a guest on the podcast that isn't a photographer.
Really?
Yes. But I figured
I
like
feel-
you would be the perfect intro into it. So
Yay.
tell us who you are, what you do,
Okay.
all the things.
So my name is Shawna. I am a wedding dress designer, and then I also design kind of like higher end gowns and like the little minis and everything like that. Anything to do with dresses and that aspect is what I design and create.
It's so crazy to hear Shawna say that. I'm like, I could never. But Shawna literally, we'll just be talking about something and she's like, oh, that'd be fun to have a dress. I'll just whip one up real quick. And
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, what do you mean whip up a dress?
I remember the first time I said that. I think it was me and Elizabeth, like
Yeah.
in a group message.
Yeah.
Or no, it was something. There was a few of us, and I was like,
I
"Yeah,
don't
let me
know.
just like whip something up." And she was like, "Excuse me, what?"
Like, what do you mean whip something up? And she's like,
Just
yeah, I'll
casually.
just sew myself a dress.
Yeah,
Like, what?
just the things I do on the normal, you know.
Not even kidding. She'll always come in with like random cuts or like pricks in her fingers
yeah.
or like,
Sewing
one time did
through
you have
my-
a cut on your knee from it?
Possibly. Oh yes, when I like walked by a dress bag and like there's a needle sticking out and it like just scratches my leg.
Just casual things,
Right.
you know? These are things we don't
get beat up.
understand as photographers. But like, man, your job is dangerous, Shawna.
Yeah, blood, sweat, and tears.
Literally though. But that is crazy. Okay, I want to know, obviously, like that's who you are, what you do.
Yeah.
But I'm excited because obviously I know your story.
Yeah.
But I think it'll be really like intriguing to a lot of people,
Right.
especially like as photographers. Obviously, we want to work with people who are like designers, right? We want to work with designers' clients, and then we also want to work with like designers themselves. But also we're creatives too. And so I think it's cool to hear someone's creativity and like their story in a creative way that's different than photography. So I'm excited. Tell us your story.
I'm excited too. I feel like I haven't really told a whole lot of people my story except my friends and stuff. So I started out, I went to college for design, and then after that I graduated, I moved to New York City.
Where'd you go to college? Tell
Ball
us
State
everything.
University.
Okay.
It's in Indiana, where I'm from. Probably like an hour and a half-ish from where I'm like originally grew up and everything. And I did the whole 4 years of school, did internships and stuff like during the time too, but they were smaller ones. And then I got a really big internship once I graduated, and that was with some pretty big name designers out there. And I got that first opportunity and then just moved to the city right after graduation. That's the first place I
So
ever
crazy.
moved that was like somewhere big, and obviously like going by yourself at like
Yeah.
22 years old, which was kind of scary, but I was like,
And it's super different than like
yes.
Indiana.
Yeah, Indiana's
know?
like cornfields and like small towns
Yeah.
that I'm used to. So going to like a big city was crazy, but I had been there for obviously like the interviews and different things like that, because I flew out there to get fabrics for my senior collection that I did for our little runway. But
Little runway.
yeah, it was
Literally,
like, okay,
Shawna's like used to like runway shows. I'm like, what? This is
well,
crazy.
like our college little runway was so small compared to like the big ones that
that
I've
makes
done
sense.
since then. But after that, I'd been there to visit and kind of like learn the city a little bit, but that's over the span of like a couple days.
Yeah.
And so I moved there, and it was like terrifying. So I was like, okay, here I am, and I'm just like there in this big city, and it didn't feel real until I like started those internships, and then I actually got another internship when I was out there. So I was kind of doing two at once. One was through like the designers that I worked with, and then was another lady. She used to work at Kleinfeld's and be like the lead of alterations there, but then started her own sewing place or alterations place, and does a lot of custom stuff too. So I got to learn from her.
That's so cool.
A lot of different things, which I was more focused on the technical design side, which is what really helps me with the designers I was working with. But being there, like, hands-on, kind of like tearing into dresses too, was like a good thing, because you see it from the start and then you can do other things too, like in the mid process of it. Like even now, the studio that I'm at here, we always say like we reconstruct, we construct, and then we deconstruct, because you can do like it's not just like the start of it. You literally have a full like rounded experience with different parts of design.
It's kind of like when I think about it in the photography world, it's like taking the pictures versus editing the pictures. Right. So like taking, culling, and then editing. Yeah. You know, it's like it's finishing the process too. It's like closing the door on the project, not just leaving it open. And,
right.
You know?
There's so many different steps and everything, but I thought that was really cool because it really helped like give me like experience in different areas. And then after that, I, especially in the fashion world, to make it or to start in design, you have to have a foot in the door. But with those big name designers that I worked with, I had the connections that I needed to start my own label and then have like the production factories and everything that are in New York to like produce your designs, because you have to kind of also figure out which way you want to go, if you're going to like sew all your product yourself or if you're going to use like a cut and sew factory where you do all the technical design and they just like put it together for you and just like button it all up perfectly. Yeah. But so that's kind of the route that I started with. That's and so then cool. Just like jumped in, and once I started it was so fast. Like it just kind of like was like one thing after another, and then I started getting offers to do some fashion weeks. Like they started out smaller ones, and I first actually had planned my very own first fashion show, and it was at this place in Indiana called the Garment Factory, because it was like an old place that actually sewed garments and everything in the past. Cool. And I had found it, and I was like, let's do a show here, because at this time, COVID...
Bear is like laying on your mic right now. Let me just pull this.
Is that affecting it? Wait.
I don't know, but that way you can move. Okay, sorry guys. No, if you're watching on YouTube, you watch me like pull the mic up, because Bear just like laid right at Shawna's feet like a good little dog. Anyway.
He's just protecting.
Yeah.
But at this time too, COVID had hit. And so, like, it was a huge setback in, obviously, like, the fashion, but bridal industries, too, because you couldn't have, like, big gatherings. You couldn't do any of the markets. You couldn't do the runway shows or anything like that. True. So this was right as I started, like, my label and everything, too. It was in a year in, but that whole first year was, like, the process of, like, starting a company, a brand, and doing a lot of the back-end stuff and getting that first collection out, which takes like usually 6 to 8 months, but it takes a year for your first one, because you're perfecting everything and you're just wanting to make sure you have like a good product out there. So at that time it was like getting ready to launch and like do something, and then it was like standstill, like the world shuts down. So crazy. And you couldn't like get in New York or anything, so I was back in Indiana and staying there because everyone left the city. Yeah. But so I was back there and I was like, I still want to do like a little show. And this was before it completely shut down. And they were just kind of like, oh, it's like 2 weeks. And then it was like a little bit different in Indiana. New York was shut down, but different states I think were different. Yeah. But I was able to do like one little runway show. Wait, pause. Maybe this was right before COVID, because I think I did that first show and then COVID shut everything down. Because then after that, I was invited to like New York Fashion Week and everything, and it's supposed to be that fall, like which right is coming up now. Yeah, it's New actually York Fashion 2 days. Week.
So it's kind of like timely. I did not plan that at all. Right. That we're talking about this.
I was looking at it, I was like, wait.
No, I had no intention in it. Yeah. It just happened.
Just God's timing.
Yeah, I was so intentional and strategic with this podcast.
Right. But no, I had gotten invited to New York Fashion Week and a bunch of different other shows, but it was like everything halted. Like I had already paid deposits and everything, and then it was just like, no, they kept pushing it off and like pushing it off, and like 2 years later it was the first time I had been able to do like the New York Fashion Show runway that I had paid for like in 2019, right before 2020, and it got backed up 2 years because of like how New York was in that state of time.
That's wild. And I mean, if you're listening to this and you're a wedding photographer at the time, then you understand that, because your work probably got backed up around that too, around 2 years too. But
especially because like the weddings, you could only have small gatherings. And so a lot of people just pushed them off and said that they would wait because they didn't want to.
Yeah, because they were like, oh, let's elope now and then we'll do a bigger one later. Yeah, that is so crazy. Well, tell us about like when you finally were able to do the shows and kind of stuff like that. Tell us about like New York Fashion Week in general.
It was exciting. It was a rush. I didn't believe that I was in it until like I had flown in, and then the rest of my team was flying in like right after. But I know my best friend Erin, I was like texting with her because I got off the plane, then she did, and I was there before anyone else, so I had a fitting. I flew in and went straight to they had these penthouse suites for everyone, and each designer had their own. And I remember walking in, and I was like 24 at the time.
That's insane.
So I was still very young. Yeah. And so I walk into the lobby, and there's just models everywhere, like sitting like on the floor and everything. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. It started to hit me at that point. But then I went up to like, I think it was like the director or someone in charge. And I was like, oh, hey, like, where am I supposed to go? He's like, oh, go sit over here with the other models. And I was like, actually,
that's funny.
I was like, I'm the designer. I'm supposed to like find out.
You're
where
like,
all
but thank you.
I know. I was like, I guess it's
flip.
a compliment. But so then they took me upstairs to my suite, and then I had a 25-piece runway show, which is huge for New York. And normally it's like 10 to 12, like a collection, but I had a very big like show, so I was like, I at least need 20 models, because with runway shows they go very quick. So it's usually like 6 minutes max, but I had to like kind of like in my head like calculate this out, because I was like, I can't have too many dress changes, because then you're having a model change too quick, and you have to like time it and space it out perfectly to where it's like they have enough time to get out of one dress and then the next one before they're walking again. And you have to like make sure everything's like
so fast paced.
Right. Yeah. And so I was like, I at least need 25, and that leaves me like 5 dress changes. But if I can get more models than that, then that's the more the better. Yeah. But I think I had like 40 models that wanted to cast for my show. So I ended up I selected 23 based off like fit and everything and like what was like working.
That's so hard though to select. Like that.
Oh my gosh.
That's really hard.
It's tough because they're in this room and you're with some directors. And New York is very harsh and like cutthroat when it comes to it, but models are used to it because it's the industry and like that's just how it is. But I was nervous though, because I was like, I don't want to be mean, right? And then I finally got the hang of it to where you have to be like, okay, no or yes. But at first, like the first couple rounds, because we did like sets of 5, and that was just like,
that's so
I
crazy.
felt so bad. I was like, oh my gosh, no. But then you kind of get the hang of it. But after that was over, the rest of my team gets in. We do like dinner and stuff. And then I had like 2 days before the show. And we were just like prepping, like getting stuff ready, making sure everything's fine. A lot of the agency and stuff that you are with, they kind of handle like everything else. But I was just like on the, like my side, like making sure I had people for content. And then just kind of like organizing all like buyers and press and everything that everyone you had lined up that had invites, making sure they were going to be there, where their spots were going to be, and like that everything was like
so it's a lot of like the organization of it too. So I feel like New York Fashion Week is like interesting because everybody wants to be a part of it, especially if you're creative. But at the same time, like the week itself doesn't sound like it's actually that creative. It's like the creative process and hard work that goes into it is way up front. And then once you're there, it's like, no, we got to direct and execute. Like, it's
like, it's a whole process. And it's not like, oh, leisure, like, oh, you get to have fun like at New York Fashion Week. I was like, it's a job. It's I was hard work. Up at like 5 a.m. every day, but I was up also early because I was on the 37th floor of like a hotel, and I was like running the stairs every morning for exercise. And
what?
I know, everyone was like, what are you doing? I was like, I don't know, I had to get my exercise in, and it's New York, like you can walk down the street, but it's different than like walking the bridge here. But so I was doing that, but then we were up till like 11 p.m. at night, even just getting stuff ready. But the day of my show, it was very exciting. It didn't hit me, but I always make my runway outfits for shows that are like really cute, creative, like fun things that I get to do with my own outfits. Because when you're the designer, you walk out after the finale of your collection and everyone like claps and everything. So I was like, I don't want to just like wear something random. I want to like have my own product on my body, but make it like a one-off piece. Yeah. That way people are like, oh, that's really cool. And like she has her own personal touch and spin on it. So I was like perfecting my outfit like the morning of, like sewing it. Everyone's running around the hotel room crazy, kind of getting everything ready. And then we headed out to our venue, and it was just craziness once we got there. I went in the front entrance instead of the back, and there's security, and they were questioning me like how, because you can't get in, it's like buyers only. And I was like, no, I'm the designer. And the director had to come out there and get me because they did not believe that I was the designer. That's so funny. And I was like,
I wonder what the average age though is of a designer. Do you know?
I would say usually like 40. Wow. Sometimes younger now, that a lot more younger people are kind of like doing more in the industry, but I was like the baby of everyone.
24.
Yeah.
Versus like the average age of 40. Right. That's crazy.
And even in bridal markets, I was always the baby, and everyone was always like at least upper 30s and 40s.
Wow.
But yeah.
That's insane, Shawna.
I know.
It's really cool though.
But so I get to my show, I couldn't even get in until they finally came and got me. And then it was like from that point on, it was just like meeting after meeting the day of. Like I had to confirm all like the nails for every model, every like hair and makeup, I guess, for each one. Like there were styles that I had sent in of how I wanted it, but I was like confirming that. And I just remember it's like a zoo of people backstage, and someone was grabbing me like every second, like pulling me one way or the other. And then thank goodness you have a ton of like people too that were like steaming dresses, so I didn't have to do that. I was over there sewing a model into a dress, trying to like get it to like fit
takes
better.
A whole village to do it, I feel like. Yeah.
And then just like lining every dress up, getting like the shoes set for each dress, like jewelry for each piece, like making sure it was all fine. And 5 minutes before my runway show, I had a couple models, I guess, in the street taking photos. Which I don't mind, but technically they weren't supposed to from what our director said, because he was worried that something would happen to them or get kidnapped. But I'm like, they're not going to get kidnapped. This is Soho in New York City. Like, it's fine. But he kicked these two models out of my show 5 minutes before
because
runway.
They were doing that?
Yeah. And keep in mind, like, one of them already had a dress change. She was in my finale dress and had another dress change, like, earlier in the set. What? And so we had to reset.
Wait, so who was it that kicked them out?
One of the directors.
And you didn't have a say in it?
No.
That's crazy.
And so I'm sitting there, like, frustrated because we have 5 minutes till a runway show, and I have to reset a 25-piece show, which can take up, like, it takes days to plan that. And I don't know, me and Aaron just looked at each other and we just did it. And I was like, that's okay, just reset it. And then finally I just threw like,
that's where I feel like as entrepreneurs, and especially creative entrepreneurs, like, you have to be able to think on your toes and problem solve.
Yes.
And not that, like, this sounds insane, but in a similar way, I can compare it to something like photo camp for me, where it's a lot of moving parts and I've got to like plan things. But like the last photo camp, the wind was like crazy on the beach.
Yeah.
And do you remember that day? I can't remember if you were there or not.
I think
you were there for the first one where we had a thunderstorm and it was flash flooding.
Yes.
So I guess that was a similar story. Yes. But there was one where it was like 5 minutes before attendees were supposed to go to the shoot, and like I had people on the beach setting up, and it was so windy that the table we were using was like flipping. Because we were doing like a picnic and a bridal set and stuff, and it like was not going to happen. They tried sandbags on it, everything. And so it was like 5 minutes before, similar. And I'm like redoing everything. I'm like, nope, bring everything that you have to the backyard. We're doing it there. We'll walk to the beach. Like, I had to like redo it. But it's like problem solving can be creative too.
Oh yeah.
And like it's like you have to have like the creativity in the moment too, to be able to say like, nope, we're just going to do this and we're going to make this plan work. You know, it's crazy.
You have to like think on the spot and just like make it work, because half the time, like we always say, like nothing goes to plan. Like you have to like expect things and you just go with it.
Expect
and you
the unexpected.
Right.
That's the motto for Big Brother, the TV show that I talk about all the time.
Of course, you and Big Brother.
I know. Shawna knows my love for it.
We're trying to get Alex to actually apply to Big Brother and convince her.
I can't do it. I don't know. I have a lot of responsibilities.
Maybe eventually. In the
Maybe
future.
one day.
You never know.
Anyway.
But what were we talking about? The
fashion show, 2 models. You had to like redo everything.
Yeah. So we had to think on the spot, and now every time we like run into a crisis, especially when anyone on my team that was there is with me, it's just kind of like we reset a 25-piece runway show in 5 minutes. Like we can do anything.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that was just
like the callback to it.
Right. But the show ended up going like really good, and it was a lot of fun. Yeah. And that was my first one. So obviously I was frustrated with that situation. I won't use that agency again because there was a lot of other things that happened behind the scenes that I didn't see. And one of like models have told me things, but that was my first dip into like the New York Fashion Week. And then you kind of start seeing like all the good and the bad things of the fashion world and like with models and how they're treated and everything. But it was really cool because being younger too, a lot of times designers will just see models as a body and not really a person. But I was able to make friends with a lot of the models. I still stay in touch with them today.
That's cool.
But it just like create like really cool friendships and relationships out of it. So that was
that is actually a really cool little tidbit type thing. I have a lot of models that have become my friends because I've been their photographer, and I won't name any of them or anything like that, but a lot of them have said like that I treat them like it's the way that I treat them that has like drawn them to me as a friend. And it's because a lot of the time they are just like not treated well. And it's not that like people are meaning to do that necessarily, but it's like they just see them as like the product almost. And they're like, okay, go stand there, go do this. And like the way that they talk to them isn't as if they're a human. So if you are a photographer or anyone else and you do work with models, like listen to what we're saying right now, because like you can be the light and a difference in the industry in that way, where like the way that you treat them, they will notice, they will see, because they are human. And like nobody deserves to be treated like that, whether that's their job or not, to just stand there and look pretty or whatever. That's, first of all, their job is so much more than that, you know, like honestly. But then also on top of that too, like I said, like they will notice the way that you treat them. And as we continue to treat them differently, the industry as a whole changes for them. So anyway.
And you make it like so much farther treating people better. And it's like these people want to work with you in the future. They want to walk for your brand, versus if you're rude or mean to them and then they're like, oh, I don't want to walk for you, I'm not going to audition for your show. But most of the models that I met then, like they would ask me about markets and be like, hey, can I come with you to market and model for you for this? Or like anytime they're like, if you need anything, if you want to just shoot when I go to New York or different things, like I have a network of people out there just from like meeting them at shows and treating them nice and making these like genuine like friendships and everything. So community. You just get so much further.
I love community.
Yes.
That's so true. Okay, so from there to like now, because obviously your life is different now. You're not doing New York Fashion Week this year. So that's new. That's crazy. And obviously you don't live in New York anymore. So tell me everything about that too.
So once I was back in Indiana from COVID, it was either go back to New York or go somewhere else. But I just didn't feel like New York was the place that I wanted to necessarily be the rest of my life. So I was like, I could always just like go back and forth with somewhere, but I had actually started designing new collections based off my runway outfits that I did, because I had done like a lot more shows since that New York Fashion Week, because that was gained a lot of traction for me and a lot of recognition. So I was invited to like a ton of other ones, and I had made different runway outfits for those that actually went viral on social media, and people were like, where do we get these? Or they wanted them. So I was like, okay, I'm going to start producing them. Started working with another factory, because I have a separate bridal production factory and then a separate for like more couture pieces. And so I started producing those as well, and then was coming up to like do a photo shoot for these, and I was like, I don't want to shoot them in New York. Like it just didn't make sense. So I was like searching everywhere of where I could have these photo shoots, like Googling different places. I thought about like Lake Tahoe, and then like the Hamptons, or like other places that I was kind of like more familiar with. And then I stumbled on, I don't know how I stumbled on Charleston. I think it was just like social media. I saw the post. I was like, oh, this place looks cute. But I had came to Charleston, Magnolia Plantation, when I was a little kid. We didn't actually come into Charleston, but I remember it was on our way to spring break in Siesta. I was probably maybe high school, but I remember like being there, or maybe I was a little younger, and I just remembered Magnolia Plantation like from a while ago in like my childhood, and I was like, I want someone that has like gardens that's really pretty, because it's florals and A lot more color versus bridal.
Yeah.
And so I was looking and I was like, okay, we could do Charleston. We could shoot sometime or somewhere downtown. But I was like, I really want to shoot at this place called Magnolia Plantation. So I just like on the whim reached out to Magnolia. I found someone's email in charge and they were like, oh yeah, we'd love to have you come in. Didn't charge me a fee or anything. They're like,
which is like super abnormal, guys.
I didn't know that either.
Every time, literally
you.
every time that I hear that story, I'm like, what?
Yeah, they were like, oh yeah, just bring your team of people in. We'll have like whatever you need to set up. Just walk in, models, whoever, and
that
just do what you need to do.
That is so crazy. Because like in Charleston, you have to have permits, you have to have licenses. Like there's a lot to it in Charleston because so many people come in and do exactly what Shawna is talking about. Yeah. So it's pretty wild, like the favor that was just on you.
I know.
It's so crazy.
I had no idea too until telling you that. I was like, yeah, I shot at Magnolia and you were,
my mouth dropped.
Me, like, how? And I was like, wait, I didn't have to do anything. They told me to come in and just do whatever I needed to do.
And they do let people, it's just usually for a higher fee because you have to pay for the permit and stuff like that. But,
yeah. And there's like so many things that you have to like be mindful of, like some places you can't shoot, like some of the homes here, like the historic ones, they're strict about like shooting inside or whatever, which obviously we were using the garden, so that really didn't have like pertain to me.
But even in Charleston, like you can't shoot at all on one of our islands here, like
on
literally on Sullivan's Island, like photography and all commercial activity is literally illegal, and you'll get like I think it's like a $1,500 fine
it's
for
pretty
it.
high.
So like it's pretty crazy. All that to say, the fact that Shawna, like the one thing you wanted was Magnolia, and they're like, yeah, come on in. It's like baffling. But anyway, continue. But what year was this? Just for timeline of it.
May of last year, 2023.
Okay.
It's 24 right now, right?
Yeah.
It's like, wait,
the fact that you asked me and then I had to think about it, I was like, wait.
I know. Well, it's because I get so confused sometimes because at the studio, it's like brides will tell us their wedding date and I've been writing 25 more. So I'm like, I feel like it's already 2025.
That's funny because that was the same reason for me when I thought about it, because when I'm like doing my gallery deliveries now, I'm delivering seniors for 2025. So like my gallery delivery thing is like I write senior 2025 on it. Yeah. And so for me, sometimes I'm like, wait a minute.
What year is
this?
It's so
funny that you said that. Okay,
and plus in the fashion industry, we work on a 6-month like ahead time scale. So like right now I'm in like February of 2025 in my head.
That's so funny.
But so I did all that and got like this confirmation that I can shoot at Magnolia, and I was like, I have no idea anyone in Charleston. I was like, how am I supposed to find a photographer? How am I supposed to find models? But I was stalking Magnolia's page, just like looking at some of their like pretty photos, and I clicked a photo and I really liked it, and then it tagged the photographer, and I was like, let me just reach out to this lady because I was coming down.
It was not me, to clarify. It was not me.
We hadn't met yet. Yeah. But I had clicked on the photographer. I was like, I really like her style, and she kept things like really natural too, and kind of what I always look for in like brand or my brand
and
stuff.
Her like editing style matches Shawna's style really, really well too.
And so I just reached out, and I was only going to be in Charleston for 4 days, but we had 2 days planned for a shoot because I had like 10 pieces total, so we were doing in like 2 days because I didn't want to like overload one day because it just gets crazy. So I had planned out 2 days to shoot, and I was like, okay, let me just message her and see if she just has these 2 days available. This is like 2 weeks prior to coming here. I was like, there's no way this photographer is gonna like have availability. Those 2 days I needed, she had.
That's awesome.
And then I just reached out to a makeup artist that she's actually pretty big on TikTok. Cool. Her name's Shelby Bell, because I was watching something on TikTok and it was her posting, talking about how she was in South Carolina. I was like, let me just message her and see how far away she is from Charleston. She was like 2 hours, and I was like, do you by chance have this like day available that you could do the makeup for my models? And she did. And
perfect.
Then I found the models, one of them Tegan that you used for photo camp. I just messaged her off Instagram and then found 2 other people through Facebook. And
Facebook is huge in Charleston. Yeah, I'm telling you.
But so everything fell into place. I was like, okay, this is definitely like a God thing that it just like worked out timeline wise. And then next thing you know, like 2 weeks later, me and Aaron were in the car driving to Charleston with all these dresses. And I had a finale dress that was supposed to, because I was supposed to do Chicago Fashion Week that spring. I decided not to because I was going to do a launch party for a new brand and do a big influencer event instead, because I was like, this is something different. I've done the runway, so I was like, let's try a brand event. Yeah. And so I was supposed to do like the Chicago Fashion Week show the day that we came here to Charleston.
Oh, wow. I don't think I knew that.
Really?
This is all news to me. Yeah.
Well, I think it was supposed to be like the Sunday, and then we were going to leave from Chicago to come straight here because I was going to shoot Tuesday, Wednesday, but that Monday was going to be our travel day, but I decided not to do the Chicago show. And I thank goodness I didn't, because the finale dress that I had was not in yet. It was still being shipped from a production factory, because this dress, it's a custom made lace that's exclusive to my label, but it was all hand beaded, and it took like 900 hours to make, and
that's
it was
crazy.
not ready. So obviously the runway show wasn't meant to be, because I wouldn't have my finale gown.
Can we pause on that really quick? I want you to talk just super briefly about something that's really cool about Shawna is like when you hear that, depending on who you are and some of your beliefs, like you might be like, who's making those dresses? You know what I mean? Like who's hand beating those dresses? So talk a little bit about like how you scoped out your factories and stuff like that, just for a second.
So the first factory I ever used was based right in New York City. That was the connections that I had to the designer I was working with, but it is extremely expensive to produce in New York, which is good if you have like the clientele and everything for it, which I still use at factories sometimes. But then through bridal markets, I met a rep. They're based out in New York, but they have some different factories like offshore, and like different countries specialize in different things. Like India specializes in like the hand beading, the very, very couture pieces. Paris is obviously haute couture. Italy, they're really known for like high quality stuff too. And then like my mill that I get a lot of my fabrics and stuff from is either in Italy or in London, because they have like a lot more high end products. Yes, they're a lot more expensive, but it's like high quality stuff, and you know who's making it.
Right. It's more ethical.
Right.
Yeah.
And yes, because there's a lot of factories like with fast fashion that use the child labor and everything. Yeah. And I refuse to have anything to do with that. Yeah. Because I think it's so wrong. But yes, and what was I saying? Wow, my brain just blanked.
Anyway, that's all. I just wanted her to talk about that, because I know that was like something in your heart. But when you say hand beaded, if people don't know, they could be like, right, you know what I mean? Yeah. But I know the other side of it, and how hard Shawna has worked to make sure that isn't the case for her business, and it drives up your prices for your dresses. Right. But it does it with an ethical reason behind it. So I just wanted her to like touch on that really quick.
And most people ask me too, like, why is it so expensive? And then I have to like explain why. Yeah. But like my main reason is like I tell this to people all the time, like I can go to bed at night knowing like some child's hands aren't bleeding to make my product. So, and then like with the stuff that was hand beaded, it was from that factory is from India, because they're specialized in like the luxury hand beading and everything, but extremely like ethical and everything. Like anything we go through is like a process of like scouting your factory and like going through those ethical things and like running it through, not like government, I guess, like credentials, but like you run through like all those tests to make sure everything is like good and like nothing sketchy is happening. But that's who was making this, because it's mainly because they were making the lace for me. Okay. That was like all like the hand beaded and everything, and that's what went into this dress. There's a lot of times like I will hand bead a lot of stuff myself. But this one they were making the actual fabric for me. So that was exclusive, and then it was in some of my other ones. So I got that dress. I had it shipped to Chicago, and I had to intercept the package and reroute it to Charleston, because we were on our way, and I picked that up the day before shooting here. I know. I was like, the time, like, it's, I don't know, sometimes like stuff is like last minute like that, but you just like run with it and work with it. And I was like, if I don't have it like for the shoot, it's fine, like I'll figure something out. But it came and did the whole shoot and everything, and it was perfect. But I remember at dinner the night of the first shoot, because I was kind of talking to a photographer. She's like, I think you'd be perfect here. And I found out Charleston was a bridal capital. Yeah. But she was like, I think that you would really fit here. And we just kind of had like this Jesus talk too. Like, and I was like, I just don't know if I'm supposed to go back to New York or like where I'm supposed to be. She's like, just move to Charleston. And I was like, I don't know anything about Charleston. I'm just here.
Crazy to me, because like when you guys go and look Shawna up later, like you're gonna see like her designs just fit Charleston. Yeah. Like to me, it's like baffling that you were in New York making these things, because it's so like it feels like Southern couture. Yeah. You know, like it literally feels like Charleston. Yeah.
And my target market's always been like the South, like the big sororities and like anything, because I feel like people here dress up more for even just like football games, like homecomings, like prom. And then Midwest and kind of more northern, it's a lot more casual, even for like their homecoming dances and stuff. I feel like people here are definitely who my target market is. Yeah. But
you didn't even know it. Right. That's so funny.
Until I was sitting at dinner, I think Erin was the only one that up from my team that came with me to that shoot. But we were sitting at dinner and I looked at her that first night. I was like, I think I'm going to move to Charleston. And then she
after
was like,
one visit, Shawna was like, I'm in.
She was like, okay. She just kind of looked at me. Sometimes I like come up with these like crazy ideas.
I just snorted. Did you hear that? I know. I'm a little bit sick still. I told them last week that I'm sick, so I keep like coughing anyway, and I'm like trying to breathe back the cough, but I straight up snorted.
It's okay.
That's actually so funny. Okay.
But moving on.
Moving on from my snort.
I'm gonna laugh if you do it again.
Okay, I'm gonna try not to. I just have to breathe.
What even like causes snorting? Like, do we even know?
I don't know.
I don't know. That's just like, this is like the random stuff that like pops into my head, and I just like get so sidetracked.
Okay. So you looked at Erin, you said, I'm moving to Charleston.
Yeah, and sometimes like I've had like crazy ideas in business. I was like, I'm gonna do this or that, and sometimes she's like, okay, you got some big dreams. She's like, but I believe you. But we just kind of like sat there, and that was in May of 2023. By July, I came back down here because I was like...
And that was when we met, right?
Yes.
In July?
Because I was
we went
kind of
and
like...
had coffee.
Yeah, I was scoping apartments, and then I was just like kind of like figuring out like how it would work. Mm-hmm. And it just like stuff started falling into place again. So I was like, okay, maybe I'm supposed to move here. But then I posted in the Charleston group, and I was like, I'm in Charleston for like a few days. Or I think I was here for 4 days. And I was like, I don't know.
Crazy. 4 days, and we somehow squeezed coffee in.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
But I was alone that time, so I was like...
And she like introduced herself in this group and like said what she did and stuff like that, you know?
I was like, does anyone want to like meet or something so I can like have someone to hang out with or something during the week, so I wasn't just like sitting there alone or something. And then you commented and was like, let's go get coffee. And then we just started talking. And then I think... when I was like, so my faith has always been like really important to me too, mm-hmm. and like finding a good church community, and the church that I go to in Indiana was like really good, but they never had anything for like young adults or anything. I never found like that circle that was like really rooted. I had a ton of friends and stuff in Indy that was like a lot of entrepreneurs and stuff too, and I was actually talking to one of my friends of like how much I missed that, because like we all had like a lot of the same goals. Yeah. But, like, we were at different churches. I was like, I just really need a community. And then you had told me that you and Zach did the church
I think
here.
if I remember it right, like, Shawna, you brought your faith up first. Yeah. And I was like, oh, cool. Because I think I had gone into the conversation like, hey, I'm a photographer. I'd love to meet with you. Like, it was more like with that side of my brain working, you know? And then it was cool because I walked away and I was like, that was a cool conversation. Like, I wasn't expecting that, you know? Yeah. But anyway, continue.
Yeah, you had told me that you guys were like doing the church up. It was out of their living room at the time, now in the clubhouse. But I remember walking away from meeting you that day. I was like, okay, I'm gonna move to Charleston. I think that was like
that is so funny, Shawna, because I literally told one of our other friends like the other day. I walked away from it being like, I don't know if I'll ever see that girl again.
Just this random girl in Charleston that decided
I mean, it's great to like meet somebody, but when you're meeting with them before they ever move here, like there are a lot of people, and I now know this too. Like there's so many people that move to Charleston. There's also so many people that will come here on vacation looking to maybe move to Charleston because they're looking for a move, and then they don't. And Shawna like hadn't made that decision yet. And so like in our conversation, like I was like, well, we'll see if she moves, but like probably not, you know?
Like,
and then literally like 2 months later, you're like, hey, I moved to Charleston. Can I come to church on Sunday?
And so like within like May, because I moved in August, that was like what, 2.5 months by the time, because it was like middle of May that we did the shoot. 2.5 months, I up and moved my whole life to Charleston and just wild. Restarted over. Basically.
But how fun. Like you're in this season of life where you can. Yeah. And like I said, it just like fits you. Like Charleston just feels, it feels like Shawna grew up in Charleston, honestly. Which is so funny. It feels
like I've like always like belonged here. Like it always like felt like home. It did take me a minute to adjust moving here because I felt like I was on vacation. Like it didn't feel real that had
happened to me too. That's funny.
Here. Like me and my roommate were talking about it. I was like, it hasn't hit me yet that I live here. But I'm just like, I feel like I'm going to be leaving or something.
Well, and it's nice. We have the beach and stuff too, you know, and there's like so much to do here, which is always fun. Like always something new to do if you want, or you can like find your favorites and go to that too. But yeah, I think like community has added a big piece of that. Like as I continue to have community and like more and more people are added to it, that's where it's like, oh, this feels like home. You know, because you have like your people. But other than that, if you're just exploring on your own, it's like, ooh, vacay.
It's like this cute little place that everyone like loves to come to. But I know it's like where we live.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
It is
like
cool.
when you think about it, because so many people, like a lot of friends that don't live here, they'll like come and visit, or even my parents, when they visit, they're like, it's like such a dream.
I know.
Like a dreamy place.
Shawna's parents were literally here this weekend, and I got to meet them, and they're so cute and sweet.
They are. They had the best time.
Yeah.
I was so glad that they
I want them to
visit.
move here now. That's what we're going to work on.
Right. Eventually.
So, okay, tell us a little bit about like, because obviously you were doing like New York Fashion Week there and stuff. Mm-hmm. Tell us how like your business has transitioned here a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So it's completely different than what I'm used to. Like we were talking, I'm not doing any fashion weeks this year. Last year was the first year I stepped away from fashion weeks, and I did my first like brand event, which is an influencer event. Mm-hmm. But that was a huge change for me, not doing a fashion week, because that's what I'm used to, is the runways. And then this year since moving here, I had to step back and build my business from the back end. Yeah. And just to be like, because I've had like a business mentor, and they're like, you need to stop thinking small-minded. They're like, you're gonna own like a big company one day. But just to like prepare, like set everything into place of like the foundation and stuff that
that's
want
really
it to
good,
be.
because like I think when you think long term, you have bigger goals, right, and then your steps orient to those goals. But if you have like really small term kind of thoughts, then your goals are smaller, right? And then like you're only setting up to that goal instead of like the bigger picture. So that's actually really, really a cool thought.
So it is. The last year has been rebuilding like from the back end, taking a break from the runways and stuff, because yes, the runways and stuff are cool, but they're a money pit. You don't really make anything. You don't make sales or anything from the runways. You make those at markets or through like buyers or showrooms or different things like that.
So it's more about like exposure.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's also changed, like especially with New York, the runways and everything. It's not a true art like it is in like Paris and Milan still. That's why you see a lot of big designers have pulled out of the New York shows, because I feel like it's just kind of lowered its standard a little bit, and it doesn't focus on like the true art of couture or fashion, or a garment that takes 900 hours to make something, you know. So it's a little bit different, but it took me a while to come to terms with not doing a runway show, because I felt stagnant. Yeah. And then I have to like remind myself sometimes like the building process of like the back end is very important. And so that's kind of what I've been doing like the last year. And
can you tell everyone, you've said this to me a couple of times, about like kind of what God did in your heart coming from New York to here, like what that thought was for you? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait.
Maybe you don't.
I think
like your name and lights.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So whenever I was in New York, you have these like connections to a lot of people, and you are put on a pedestal that a lot of people look up to you, and you get into like a very prideful mindset of being the like your name on everything, like everyone knowing who you are, like going into these big like not clubs, but like they have like big like rooftops and stuff for like designers, or like big kind of like brand stuff even, but a lot of like high name people, and it can really get to your head and make you like, okay, yes, I'm this and that, like I don't know, like the whole thing. And that definitely happened to me, and I feel like coming here I'd be humbled a lot, because I was still in that mindset. I remember there was one time I was doing a fashion show, and there's some other designers in it, and I wasn't getting my way with something, and I looked at someone on my team, I was like, I am this show. And then I was like, okay. I knew as the minute like those words came out of my mouth, I was like, that is not me. Yeah. And I was like, that is a horrible thing to like even say, like, because like I grew up in like the faith, and I was like, that is so prideful of me to be like that. And I was like, maybe this is like someone else's like opportunity. I remember someone else's, it was their first show, and I was like, I had to like wire my mind. I was like, someone else is getting this opportunity. Like, I don't want to act like this, because then I don't want someone else to turn out like that. And that's how like big designers are sometimes. Yeah. But with coming here, I think God really had to humble me and to change my mind and my heart with a lot of things in that. Cool. I used to say when I first started my business too, I was kind of like, I don't know, I was still in that mindset to where I was like, oh, if I lose this company or whatever, I may lose like my faith, because that was like a lot of it. But now the other day I was thinking, I was like, wow, I can lose anything, but I can't lose my faith. because of how God has like changed my mind and my heart and everything coming here. Cool. I was so focused on business, and that's part of like the New York mentality is like you're running straight like for the success, and a lot of people are, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like you're building a lot, but I had to really start to realize like what was important, which was like relationships, family, and like taking a step back and really, I can't take all these dresses and stuff with me when I die. Like all I can take is like the memory and like the what I install or
the legacy.
Yes, on like other people and like how I use like my gift to use that to like benefit other people. And so,
that's so cool.
Now like the last it's 2024, yes, we just talked about this, but last fall there was a runway show, and it was like one of the first ones I did. But one of my friends, she's a brand owner too. She designs kind of like it's not lingerie, it's I don't know how to like explain. Technically it is, but it's like different. She has like bodysuits and stuff, and it's all sustainable,
like sort of thing.
Yeah, kind of. It's like hard to explain. It's not like Victoria's Secret or anything like that, but her brand is like very ethical and sustainable. Cool. She does like these really cool bodysuits and like but it was her first runway, and I remember her calling me. She's like, "You're the runway queen. Tell me everything I need to know because I'm nervous." In that moment, I was like, "This is actually cool. I'm glad I'm not on the runway because now I can help someone." Yeah. To like do this. And I like explained to her, I was like, this is how it's gonna go. I was like, it's gonna be crazy. And then I flew back home to be there for her, to help her. And then I was also like running the show as like the social media of the show, not in the show, but like just doing behind something else. Yeah. And at first I was like, it's weird because I was like, I'm gonna walk in here and are people gonna forget out about me if this is like my first time not doing a runway? But I walked in, they were like, "You're here, we had no idea you were coming." That's cool. And they were like, "We miss you." And I was like, okay, it doesn't have to be about like your recognition and like your name in lights and everything. That's not what defines you. It's like the impact that you make.
That's so good, Shawna. That is so good. And I think like that's such a good thing for us to hear too, just in general. Like when we build our life on things that are shakeable, like our businesses, as much as I want them to be successful and I want us to always chase after success in our business, at the same time, our business, it's unstable. We cannot say our business is going to for sure do this next year. Like we don't know those things. That's part of being an entrepreneur. There's this beautiful, messy kind of riskiness that comes with being an entrepreneur. That's really fun, honestly, but it can also be scary. And it's just, the reality is like, it's not stable. And when we build our lives on something that isn't stable, then that means that our faith and our inside, our heart, like our value is shakeable. But when we build our value and our worth on something that is not shakeable, is stable, that's when we get to like feel empowered in our lives. And also it's like what Shawna said, like our impact on others matters far more than ever like seeing our names in lights. Our impact on my impact as Alex matters so much more in my everyday life and how I impact others than it ever does a number next to my Instagram. Like I would gladly stay at 2 followers as long as I'm getting work and able to pay, like, and obviously that's not quite possible. Like there's obviously like stats that go with that, like, as far as like my work goes, but as far as like my pride goes, like I would not want to be a prideful person and have 75,000 followers or whatever. I don't even know what I'm saying at this point, but you guys get what I'm saying. Like that kind of stuff doesn't matter. What matters is the way that you treat people and how they walk away from you. And that's why it's so important to build community around you. It isn't so that you would have a network that gets clients. No, it's so that people are impacted by you. And with that, of course, come clients. That's such an amazing thing. It's kind of like what you were saying earlier, like when you treat models well, also they're going to come back to you. Wow, that's great. But also more than that, we just want to treat people well. Too. So
it gets you so much farther than like being hateful.
It totally does.
Or putting yourself above someone.
Well, that is so good. Okay. I'll be honest with you guys. I had like a million questions for Shawna, and we have not gotten to any of them. But I feel like it's going to be like way too long of this episode if I go to those questions. So I'm going to have you back in another time and talk about all of them, because I think like everything that we talked about was so good. Like I don't want to cut anything out of that to like add to it. So we'll just talk about the questions later. But let me ask you this. What is your favorite thing about living in Charleston, both personally and then professionally? So I'm just like skipping to the end of my questions right now. But what's your favorite thing about living in Charleston?
I would say personally, all the connection, like the community, that we have a small group.
Small group. You guys know I talk about small groups like every episode. But actually right now, Shawna and I lead a small group together. Yeah. And tonight's our last one. It's fine. Sad. It's fine. And then we start our new small group next week. But yeah, Shawna's not leading with me next time. It's fine. It's fine. It's okay though.
Yeah. Season of just being present.
Yeah.
Is what I'm in.
It's true. Shawna's still in my small group. So it's exciting.
Just not leading. But anyway. I would say personally, the community, because like with this past year, even with business, like taking that step back, it has brought a lot of struggle, like with my mind, health, and finances and everything with the business. Like that's part of God. Like I think humbling that too, because I was putting so many things as an idol before him, and anything that you do, he's going to strip away or anything like that. So that was hard, but it's also been like a good learning lesson. But having our community of like small group, like you've seen me like cry in small group a few times. I'm like a hot mess. Or even church like last Sunday.
But that's why community is so important, you know? Because like you need people that you can cry with.
Right. And it's like, it's not just like the people that are like, say your clients or whatever is community. It's like those people that are like your true friends and that get you through like the rock bottom stages and like help lift you up, like whether it's just a conversation or like sending a Bible verse or something. But that community, like personally in Charleston, has been what I needed.
That's so fun, because I'll be honest, I was not expecting that. I thought you were going to say like the daily coffee shop or something like that. Like,
no.
You know, like I think like when I asked that question, I was literally thinking like, what's your favorite part about, or what's your favorite thing living in Charleston? And you went so deep, but that's okay. Like, I think everybody needed to hear that. I needed to hear that too. But but go on a lighter note too. Like, what are some of your favorite things in Charleston? You know what I mean?
There's so many good things. Love the daily. I do love that. And then acai bowls anytime.
Yes, we have so many places for acai bowls here. That is
beach
true.
Is my favorite. They have like the best ones. But as far as other things to do, like I love going to like the garden place, like Magnolia. But any places that have like the really pretty gardens, or even like a Hampton Park that we went to. Doing things like that and going like walking and just kind of like spending time like in nature. It's like slowing down from like the race that I was used to in New York, where you constantly have to be doing something. I think personally, like it's definitely helped too for me to like rest and like find balance. But doing things like that, and then just mainly like spending time with friends.
Anytime that Shawna can dress up and wear a dress, she's there
all the time.
So even in Hampton Park, like she says that, people are like, oh yeah, like go to the gardens and stuff like that, walk around. You know, most people are wearing like leggings and like a workout attire, and Shawna's there in heels and a dress. Most of the time she's like somehow designed it herself.
Little tweaks,
so
modifications.
Funny.
But
that is hilarious.
I would say professionally, definitely like the connections and stuff I made in the bridal industry here, because it is bridal capital. So just having those connections and through that, and just kind of being able to see like brides firsthand too, has been really cool. Which is
really cool. That's awesome. Okay, so what advice do you have for anyone who wants to break into the fashion industry or like the bridal industry? So kind of two separate ones, like fashion and then bridal. But
I would say for fashion, most people think you have to go to like one of the big fashion schools. And when I was in New York and I was getting ready to leave, I had one of the ladies from Kleinfeld's look at me and say, don't ever tell anyone that you need a degree from a fashion school. She's like, you have what it takes to be someone that is very talented in the industry. So I say that to other people too, because a lot of people don't think that. But I've seen more skill come out of people who have self-taught themselves than I've seen from the big schools that are trained in fashion. Don't
underestimate yourself just because you haven't gone to school.
That's my main advice in fashion. And for bridal can be a beast. You can't take things personally, because a lot of times even with like brides that are like upset or like frustrated, it's a lot of times their own like stressors or stuff that they're having issues with, and sometimes you're that person that it's projected on, and you just kind of have to take it with a grain of salt, but still show grace and kindness through it. But that's the main thing. It can be brutal. It can be a beast, but it's just your mindset and how you like process things and
not being easily offended. That's something I'm working on right now. I was I was like praying about that this morning, and obviously I'm not in the bridal industry really. You know, I do very, very, very few weddings a year. But not being easily offended is just something I think like I'm working on right now in life. And I do totally agree. Like if you're going to go into the wedding industry, not being easily offended as a vendor is going to be really, really important.
Right. I think that I'm really good at that too, of where stuff just does not affect me. I guess I'm just very like passive when it comes to that kind of thing, but I've seen it really affect other people. Yeah. And
it's like your bent is towards, I feel like a lot of people have a bent towards pride or a bent towards insecurity. If your bent is towards insecurity, you are going to be, because somebody like if you're a wedding photographer and the bride comes back and they don't like your pictures, obviously that's something that's like you're gonna feel insecure about it. But sometimes like asking the right questions and not being easily offended in that first thing, like I don't like the pictures, okay, ask the question is, what is it specifically in this photo that you don't, or which photos do you not like? Please send them to me. I'd love to like look over them. What is it that you don't like about these photos? Sometimes it's not your photo that they don't like. It's that they don't like the way their face looks in the photo. And then it's just a learning curve for us of how we cull through our photos. You know what I mean? It's actually not as big of a deal as we think it is when somebody says that they don't like the photo, you know, because it's so much more than that, most likely.
Yeah. But naturally being creative, that's where like, your mind goes. You're like,
worst. Should I even be a photographer anymore? Like the rabbit hole.
The blessing and the curse with it, of where you like just so spiral a little bit, but then you...
But as business owners, we cannot be easily offended. Let's work on this together, guys. That's so funny. Okay, this is a question for you from my last podcast guest, which was, her name was Summer Grace. So her question was, what is the most inspiring part of your career that's brought you the most joy?
I would say probably like fabrics. If that... I'll explain. So whenever I design, like, I don't just start sketching something. I take my inspiration from fabrics, and it kind of like builds itself in my head, and that's where I always start from. But I think it's so cool where you can see these fabrics that are like different countries and like so couturely made that it's just like a whole art to it. So I think that's like one thing that I take a whole lot of inspiration from that's really like helped my career and like how I design, where it's not just like the same thing of like everyone else is designing off trends. Like I just have my own style and my own niche. And I know I always told myself like my goal is like to design something so unique to me that when someone sees it, they'd be like, oh yeah, that's a Shawna Marino dress. Yeah. And I had a business mentor from like 5 years ago that I just met 5 years ago that I just got back in contact with like this week. And she was like, I've seen your journey grow. She's like, I can pick out your dress from a mile away.
I can too. So it's
and
cool.
So
that she
I was
said that.
like, I used to say that when I started, and then I was like, that's like what I built. So that made me so happy. I was like, even though like my life and everything with my business is not how I first visioned it. Yeah. That first goal and standard that I set is still very true. Yeah.
That's so cool. I love that. That is awesome. Okay. What question should I ask my next podcast guest?
I am going to say, what is the biggest opposition that you face that has turned to your biggest opportunity?
Ooh, that's
deep.
Yeah, you've been very deep today.
I was like, when I'm talking to someone who is like a business owner, creative too, I love to ask that question because it just like gets them thinking, but it also like spins a mindset of like them reflecting and
that's
seeing
so
like
good.
something that
I
seems
want to
so
reflect
bad.
on this just for myself. Dang.
But,
okay, what is the biggest opposition that has turned to your biggest opportunity? Right? Okay. Yay. Okay, tell everyone where they can find you on social.
Social media. I just actually changed my handle not long ago because I took my name off my business and just put my initials. Yeah. But it's sm.bridal_couture, I think.
sm.bridal_couture. I think it is.
Pause. I think that it. I don't know where the underscore
That's
is.
so funny. Let's look it up.
Oh yeah, sm_bridal.couture.
sm_bridal_couture. Bridal.couture.
Right.
And then say your personal one too. Say your personal one.
My personal one.
Just in case they want to follow you there.
Shawna.Marino.
Shawna.Marino.
Yeah. Period.
Yeah. She's fun to follow. She shows a lot more of Charleston than I do. So if you're interested a little bit more in like the behind the scenes of living in Charleston, follow Shawna because she's really good at posting stuff all the time about it.
I've sometimes I feel like I've been slacking lately.
Shawna.
But I've also just been focused. It's wedding season.
No, that's true.
It's busy.
Sometimes you just need to be in the moment too.
But the next 2 months I got a lot of weddings that I'll be at venues and stuff. So I'm
exciting.
gonna post like
so
all the
of course, yeah,
stuff.
you'll post behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I love it.
But
cool. Well, anything else before we sign off?
I don't think so. I feel like we covered a lot.
I know, we did. We covered a lot of ground. None of the questions I had prepped.
It's fine.
We'll get to those another time. We'll have Shawna back.
Plan, right?
No, that was so good. Yeah, expect the unexpected. Thanks,
Right.
Big Brother. One day I'll be on the show.
I can see like hosting the show.
Oh my gosh, me and Julie Chen. Okay, anyway, we need to chill. If somebody doesn't watch Big Brother, they're like, what is Alex talking about right now? Anyway, it was good to hang out with you guys. I will be back next Thursday with another episode. Make sure that you rate, subscribe, comment,
all the things.
Make a review, whatever else you want to do. Love you guys so much. Thank you for listening. And this has been Let's Create with Alex Blake. And I'm your host, Alex Blake. See you next Thursday.
Bye.
Bye.
The classic Sunday bye.
Bye.